Hello and welcome to Tilting With Tuples. I'm Louis Davidson, and tonight I want to talk about if your DBA skills translate to your actual life. And I also want to point out, I didn't point this out in the last episode, but the sewing machine, I'm learning fabric, and I hopefully will also learn how to draw a better fabric emblem on my fake sewing machine. So we'll see. But nothing about fabric tonight. So my passion is and my hobby, I'm doing this as a hobby, so no expectation of anything coming in return for this. But my passion is designing and working with databases. And at the best, a DBA or data architect slash programmer's career is all about the process of organizing, using, and protecting data assets. So I got this thought in my head. I wonder how this translates to other people's personal lives. Like data assets share a lot of similarity to any other kind of organization, shelves and folding things and putting it in the right place. It's just not physical. You have to make sure you have that place for everything you tend to have. If it doesn't work, you adjust it, you make changes to it, right? And I'm going to just pretend I have the best organization skills. We'll talk about that in a second. But so this is an inherited trait. My dad was fantastic at this stuff. He worked for the Cherokee National Forest doing fleet maintenance and logistics. He was so organized in his career, it was ridiculous. He managed hundreds of vehicles, the sales, the service, usability, the road signage around the National Forest. He even helped run the Olympic Whitewater Center over in Benton, Tennessee, doing some of the logistics for getting it created. And a little sad here, he caught a bacteria right around that time. I think probably from over in the National Forest, and they couldn't find an answer for him, and he passed away before he could see the games. But the point being was he was professionally organized, did a great job. Was he a slob at home? He was absolutely not a slob at home. He kept such meticulous records that after he passed away, he had everything set up. Everything was beautiful. Everything was completely organized, labeled. His handwriting was meticulous. It was insane. Had you known him at home, you would know, well, he's really going to be organized in his job. I know there's people who aren't that way, because I know I'm not. It is definitely not a genetic trait. If you came into my house and looked around my house, you'd just find two things. One, a lot of well-organized stuff, and a lot of disorganized, or at the very least, messily organized stuff. You wouldn't be wrong to guess it was me that was in charge of the organizing, but you'd be wrong. My personal life is a mess of papers and piles. It's almost hoarding. It's this close to hoarding. I don't like throwing things away. I stack stuff on my desk. There's those iPads and wires laying on my desk, bills, traffic ticket I got several weeks ago that I still haven't dealt with yet. Hopefully going to do the class. I haven't quite found if I could, but it certainly wasn't me. My mom was pretty organized too. She wasn't nearly what my dad was, but he's so organized. But what's wrong with organizing my piles? I have to ask. I know where things are at. Everything in my life is in short-term organization. I can find the things I need. And if I don't need it anytime soon, and that is probably in the next 6 months to 6 years, in some cases, everything in my life is basically in this short-term organization, or stuff like clothes and electronics. And putting this into a computer terminology, a database terminology, it's on a heap. It's on a lot of little heaps. Let's be fair. I know there's general buckets of things. Like I have a place for clothes, and my wife was writing most of the clothes. But I know where generally clothes are, and I'll just scan them, until I find the one I'm looking for. I have a thing of old electronics and old toys and Lego and all sorts of stuff. But not always. I mean, if I really can't find something, I will have to do a full on table scan. There's no indexes, not whatsoever, that can be trusted. So you might think my organizational skills are weak, and you would be right. Physically speaking, I am terrible. But it really comes down to motivation. Like, what is your motivation for keeping things neat? It's either looks, and you can stuff things in boxes and hide them away, or put them in a storage unit and keep things looking neat. I promise you. The motivation for me when it comes to things like data is how much time can it save? Designing a database properly, building it just so everything's just perfect. Making changes to the organization of data in a relational database is actually pretty easy. Let's say you have invoices and you need to change it to a different format. You need to add a column. You need to delete a column. You need to format a column a different way. Easy. I can move all these millions of things from this database to this database. Easy. And the value you get is tremendous. Working in data warehousing as I have for so long, I feel the pain every time something's not designed correctly on the relational side or the source of my data warehouse I'm working with. And it's not my data warehouse, it's the team's data warehouse. But, anytime I'm working on it and I think I could do this better, it drives me crazy. And I know I could because what I think about, a lot of people have skills. That's my skill. That's the one thing I'm really, really skilled at is thinking about databases and how to structure them. So my motivation there is we have a database, is well structured, it works, serves the customer, internal and external. Talked about the last few weeks. I'm always going to talk about data quality, right? It's always 99% of what I talk about in life. And I've worked at this for so long, and the better the data, the easier it is to use. When things are built right, external customers are happy because their needs are served. They store their address in one place, it works in everywhere. They need to make a change. They can go, you keep their previous address for the orders prior to them moving, or you have all that stuff and it works. And then when the internal customers can say, how many of these do we have? And you can go, bam. And there's sound effects. Bam. That's the sound of a SQL server doing its business, right? That sounds bad too. But you can find out these things when people ask, because if you design the source data to match the needs of the customer and the person who's a couple layers downstream, and you get that right, get that doggone right, it's just perfect. It's beautiful. Because then the people who are over here going, how many did we sell? How much money do we make? How much money can we do? How much do we have? How much can I project? We're going to all the things. They can figure that out, and they don't have to go, oh, what happened here? You go, I don't know. Let me go spend some time looking at that. No, it's just there and it just works. Now, sometimes their needs change and you got to change the source data, and that is totally, totally expected. And it's not that I'm thinking it should be static, whatever. We should never move forward, because that does happen when you get a system that works. You don't want to change it. I love that system. That system is mine. I don't want to change it, even though the needs on either side, internal, external customer has changed. The world has changed, whatever. Right, there's something going on. We know the world has changed ridiculously in the last 5 to 10 years with the internet, social media, and that period of time we don't speak about. So I know that. And if you listen to my motivation, I'm talking about saving time, right? I've always thought a perfect DBA with a perfect job, did a perfect job, wouldn't do much. They would just sit down, they'd make sure everything was backed up. And they would, in their spare time, they would test those backups, make sure they can be restored. And they would just check, and sometimes things would be a little slow. They have to do some statistics and stuff, but they would never really have to do a whole lot. But the more this side doesn't match that side, and if you're listening to this, I'm pointing left and right. But the source data and the reporting data, if it matches and it works well together, it's just absolutely awesome. But at my house, in my buckets of stuff, it's totally different. I could organize this stuff to death, and I've done this a few times. I've tried. I want cords here, I want cables of this kind. I have little baggies with, this is USB-C to A to USB-C, and this is USB-C, USB-C, and this is, this, that, and the other. The physical world is very different than my occasional need to find this weird cable that I put in a box. I know I did some few weeks ago, and maybe it was a year ago, and I know I saw it. I can tear through this things in a couple hours max, look through every single cable I have, and there are plenty. And honestly, if I can't find something, I'm even going to scan things that say there's something else anyways. Well, this says it's, Nintendo cables. And it turns out, I threw a cable in there because it was just easy. And it's not just me, right? That happens with everybody. But I know I can scan those. How much time would it take me to really catalog everything I own and keep it up to date and in the right place? And what if it doesn't fit in the space I created it before? Well, I've got to move it. I can find my camera. It's in my camera bag. It's on my desk or my other desk, probably. In the physical world, there's no backups. I can't say, I'm going to back this up, and now I want to transform my office. And when I get done with it, I go, I don't like this. Let's roll back the office. No, you can't do that. You then have to spend a few more hours organizing it. And then you got to load it up in your car and take it to a place, and you got to do this and that and the other. So I guess what I'm saying for me is I'm motivated by what I can get out of things. Like, why do I blog? Why am I doing this podcast? What I get out of it is I'm learning something. I'm learning a skill. I'm learning how to edit. I'm learning how to actually talk like this. Is really not natural for me at all, but I get something out of it. I don't get anything out of organization. I know some people do. Like I said, person who just texted me a minute ago, she absolutely gets stuff out of organizing. I can't believe I said organizing again. I may have to keep that in. Organizing. She gets something out of it. The whole idea behind relational databases is sort of anti to the physical world. If I was building a perfect database of all my stuff, I would put it in a bucket and I would write it down on a list. And then I would have that list put somewhere else. And so the list would be divorced from the actual physical structures. And that is kind of what Cod did when he designed relational databases. And he wanted to divorce it from all the internal things you need, like what's the file? And what index would you like to use? And what format is this data in? And, all that things that people who are programmers, who are like really, procedural programmers, they like to do, I know I need to do this, and then the next step, and then the next step, and the next step, and the next step. I want control over everything. I want control over nothing. When I build a database, there's one goal I have, and that is absolutely to say, hey, database, I've got some invoices, and I know that they are connected to some invoice line items. Those invoice line items are attached to products. I would like to know, approximately within 2 digits, say, what's the average amount people have spent on these products over the past 10 years? And it does it for me because I've organized that world in such a way that the environment of the data matches what the computer knows how to do. And it can go, oh yeah, well, I can do this. I can fix that. I know that file is there and that's in the cloud. And we're going to bring that, now we're going to join it. And we know the best way to do that. And I know the algorithms, absolutely fantastic. If you give me a reason to organize things, I will organize them. For example, I have a bunch of file storage that I would love that works. I would love it to work like a relational database. I have so many pictures of theme parks, and I'm going to theme park again this year a couple times. I'm going to Sequel Saturday Orlando this year. This may come out after that, but um, I'll be at Disney World a couple days then, a couple days in November, a couple days in December, a couple days in. Anyway, he's thinking too much. But I'll take tens of thousands of pictures, and I have a fairly basic setup where I have a folder of trips, and then I have a folder of theme parks, and I have a folder of, the theme park names and such. It has theme park trips, and then it has Disney and Dollywood, and it's down below there. There's folders per day, but I don't break it down in by like attraction because that's just too much time. Scanning those gets to that point. But if you told me I could build an application that would use some sort of tool, and all I would then have to later do is say, I'd like a picture of Cinderella's castle on a sunny day and no people in it, or heavy crowds, or something like that, I would do it. I would take the effort. I've tried so many different things. I tried a couple of services. I've tried using Apple phone pictures. That's pretty good. It knows fireworks. It doesn't know Cinderella's castle. It doesn't know all the details. Roller coaster, pretty good at stuff like that, but not specific names necessarily. So it's that motivation is time spent later. One of the things I find that my favorite programmers always do is they know they do something once. You can hand do something once. The second time you do something and you think you might have to do it again, you start designing as you're doing that operation how you can automate it. And by the third time, you're automating it. And that value, that motivation is, I don't want to do these things again. And that's kind of like it is with cleaning the physical world. Clean it once, I got to clean it again. Database, I don't have to clean it again. There's no dust. There's no dust in the table. Okay. Dust are on tables like this I'm sitting at. Dust are not in SQL Server tables. Okay. So that's my little rant for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Understand that people are different. Just because someone's good at certain things doesn't mean they'll be good at other things. I don't like organizing physical things because I don't want to do it again. If I find it'll save me time, I'm more than happy to do it. Right? Let's go. I organize things for the holidays so we know where they're at. We do those totally fine. We start organizing things I don't have any desire to ever see again immediately. But I don't have any like direct desire. If I don't know where the such and such cable is, something that costs a couple of bucks, and I've spent an hour and a half making sure these things are in the right place, and I guess I'll get another one. Might as well give them to somebody else and let them have them and use them. So, yeah. Databases, digital world, I love it. Give me a reason, give me an automation reason, a way to cut down on future work. I'm all for it. All right. I hope that makes sense. I hope you maybe got a little thinking about, how do you behave in life? How are you affected? If you want to send me a social media message or something and say, this is how I do it. This is how I find myself. Like, I get concerned about it. And I brought this topic up because I really was thinking about that. I was like, why don't I like organizing things? Right? I should like organizing things. So that's my topic for the day. I don't know when this is going out, but I do wish you to have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.